Well, it's Afterburn and Aftershock are following one couple. So we're following Jax and Gianna over the course of the two stories, which when they're combined together will be one story. And we have a couple who had a pretty passionate relationship 2 years before, and then something happened, and Gia's really not sure what happened. It just kind of ended abruptly. And 2 years later, Jax shows up in her life and in her business life, and she has questions about what happened and so on. And he wants to pick things up where they left off. So I mean, that's really where we get going with this story, and we're just going to follow them through to the end. Well, New York is inspiring. Every time I'm here in New York, I love it. So it was absolutely really a no-brainer for me to set it in New York because it's someplace that I really love. And of course, we're talking about the restaurant industry, and New York is really known for its restaurants. I mean, this is really where if you're in New York, I mean, there is just tons of absolutely fabulous, wonderful places to eat. So, and a lot of the big restaurateurs in the country are based here in New York, which is not surprising. And of course, a lot of the chefs that we hear about are discovered working in New York restaurants. So it was really one, a combination of my just being in love with the city, and two, with it just being perfect for the story I was telling, which of course is set in the restaurant industry. And as for what inspired Jax and Gianna, that they did. I really can't take too much credit for them. They came to me as they are, and I'm glad that they did because I enjoy them immensely. So I'm thrilled to be the one to tell their story. Well, yes, of course, but some of that just goes as far as just watching the Food Network, which I happen to love a lot. So it was all easy work. But then there's a lot of stories looking at chefs and their histories and where they how they got started and how many of them were discovered simply by the fact that a restaurateur was eating in a restaurant where they worked and enjoyed the food that they prepared and were presented with the opportunity to establish their own restaurant. I mean, that's kind of a dream come true, which I can understand, as a writer. You sit there and you write stories, and then you hope that an editor is going to come along and pick it up and actually, give you the opportunity to present those to the world. So there's actually some, parallels between the two. Well, Gianna is the classic Cosmo girl. I mean, this is a woman who's very focused on her career, and yet not to the extent that she doesn't have a very full life. She's very connected to her family. She has a very tightly knit family. She has three older brothers and her parents, who own an Italian restaurant in Little Italy. So, she's got a full family life. She's got a full work life. Right now, she's really focused on her job. She has goals that she wants to accomplish and how to get there. And she's not opposed to finding the right guy, but it's not the be all end all in her life. I mean, for her, she's really satisfied with herself and what she's doing on her own. And if the right guy comes along, she's more than happy to kind of open that door. So I mean, she's a classic gal of making it on her own and yet still being, well connected with her friends and her family and what she wants. Because we always want to recapture the one that got away, and we all have one in our past. So to think about that opportunity to revisit something that maybe didn't work before, or in a lot of these cases, the reason why it didn't work the first time was because they were too immature or just not ready. They weren't at the point in their lives where they could actually be seriously committed to a relationship. And so it's kind of fun to pick up with somebody a little bit later on in their lives when they've learned some lessons and made some mistakes and have evolved, have matured, and getting that second chance. So I mean, we all, that's kind of one of those things that we can all root for somebody, to be a better person and to try again. Actually, one was finding the cutoff point between the two because it's one story divided into two parts. So I really struggled with that. And that actually, it took me longer to find where to break the two stories apart than it was in actually writing them to begin with. So I mean that one that was part of it, and then then I've been in the Crossfire world for 2 years now. So it was it was a little bit interesting stepping back from a couple, even getting them seriously invested in, and moving on to a new couple and becoming invested in love with them. I've had readers say I feel like I'm cheating, and it's I can understand that. There's a little bit of that. So it was a combination of those two things. But in the end, of course, Jax and Gianna won me over, and I love them and I love their story. So all the challenges ended up turning into something and an experience that I really treasure in my career.